Here at Physio Matters, we think physio matters. Access the library today and get access to the biggest lot of MSK content on the planet. Watch at home, work, or up a mountain to ensure your knowledge is at its peak. physio-matters.com. More content than you can balance a treatment couch on. Hello everybody, Jim here from the Physio Matters team, and I'm delighted to be joined by Ben Whybrow this evening. And Ben, the first question I want to ask you is, why do we care about communication?
Yeah, why do we care? Because if I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's going to have one of the biggest effects on someone's outcomes in their long term, regardless of necessarily what you do or what we say necessarily. And I've emphasized what we say there because almost we forget the how we say it as well, because that the communication people can really influence their outcomes. They'll remember, you may have heard this before, they won't remember what you do, don't remember what you say, they will remember how we made them feel. And the how bit comes from how we communicate with them, right? Not just the words that are going to come out, but also your body language, your tone you use, your kind of your, I said about the speed you're talking at, how you say, the timing of saying things, etc. And you don't need me to tell you that there are various studies and research out there that will tell you that the empathy you demonstrate and the rapport you build will have as big an influence as what we suggest, and not just us. I should be clear, as physios, but also surgery, drugs, etc. It's as important as everything else we do, if not more, I think.
There's this weird thing where people say that communication's a soft skill, which I have no idea what that means, but it seems in some way derogatory.
Well, let me put it back to you. What's a hard skill?
You have no idea.
I want to ditch the term soft skill. Some of you, and you may have heard of Simon Sinek, who's a TED talker and a business leader. So he now calls it human skill. And I think that's what we should be calling it, because it is a skill that you will use with every patient in front of you, right? Regardless of what you're seeing them for. You can go on your weekend course for your hips, shoulders. Oh, sorry about that. Knocked it completely over. Hips, shoulders, back, whatever. But the communication and how you talk to someone will be applicable to every person in your clinic, regardless of whatever they're for. So yeah, soft skills, I think we need to ditch that term and go for human instead.
Human definitely sounds better. And I can sort of make my way through what that might mean rather than soft skill, which the only thing I ever think about soft skill is it sounds like soft scoop ice cream. It still doesn't mean anything in a communication context.
Where did it even come from?
I've no idea.
I've no idea either. And again, so what are other soft skills? Who knows? So yeah, let's go with human skills from now on. Human skills, I think.
Yeah, no, great. I was talking. I had a podcast recently. We were talking about behavior change.
Yeah.
And that's something that we likely want to do with every patient. And where do you see the role of communication in the sort of specifically within the context of the health consultation? So, you often hear about, that person had a poor bedside manner, or I remember working with a consultant once, and they were like, patients would say, he knows what he's talking about, but I don't like him. How much do you think is getting across the information, and how much is rapport building, or are they both the same thing?
No, they're separate. Because I could give you lots of information, right? We know patients remember very little of what we say. B, have you heard of the phrase, facts don't care about your feelings?
Yeah.
Right, in all the science. Well, flip it. Feelings don't also care about your facts. Okay. Someone could have very ingrained feelings and beliefs about something. You could have the best reasoning in the world for why they do this. They need to change, and you give them all the reasons why. But if you're giving it, as you said there, delivering it in a way that they're not going to take in, or you're not building any trust or rapport, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. So the rapport is key for adherence to whatever you're suggesting and the change. But I'm also a feeling where we're not just in the business of behavior change. I think we're also in the business of belief change, because people can change their behaviors. You can tell someone you must do this and otherwise this will happen, and they'll go and do it, right? For that short-term extrinsic force. Oh, okay, I must do this. But then if there's no internal driver, right, and I think, I don't enjoy it, or it doesn't fit with their lifestyle, or whatever it is, it's not going to carry on. But if you built rapport, trust, and discussed it with them in a way that suits them at the time, because not all behavior change needs to take place immediately. Sometimes you need to go away and think about it. But someone can change their behavior, but if they've still got that ingrained belief of, oh, my disc's out. Oh, if I do this, my disc's going to degenerate. It's going to get worse. I've got this osteoarthritic knee. They tell me to do these exercises, but it's just going to wear it out more. That you could have the best behavior change ideas in the world, but if they've still got that belief, they're not going to go very far. And it's as I said, the skills you're going to use, and it's not just what you say, but more how you say it, with the words you use, your tone, your body language, that really will help drive that belief change. Because if they like you and get on with you and trust you and think you're an expert, they're more likely to change those beliefs as a result. We should be clear that no belief or behavior suddenly changes. It takes time, and they often need to go away and think about it. And especially if it's quite ingrained beliefs, people need to reflect. They may need to hear it several times, etc. But no words, very few words will make a big impact. But how you deliver it, and the timing of it, and the tone, etc., will have the bigger impact.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about you. We've talked prior to this, I know what specialty you sort of work in, but tell us a little bit about you, why you've ended up being interested in communication and those kinds of things, and why have we asked you to be on Therapy Live in a few weeks' time?
Okay, so I work as a pain clinic down in Cambridge in the UK. We see obviously people with persistent pain. We are, for those that don't know, in a pain clinic, you're generally the last line of support for someone with a persistent pain condition after they've already seen 2 or 3 physios already, maybe injections, maybe surgery, various scans and imaging, etc., various drugs. And I've been doing that now for 4 years. But I was doing general MSK for 5 years before that. And to answer your question about the communication, when I graduated, I'll tell you now, I did not like the idea of MSK and pain at all. If you'd have asked me graduating, what will you be doing? I'd have told you I'll be on IC unit doing suction and bagging and all that stuff. My father-in-law gave me, or suggested, the book of How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I read in the gap between when you qualify and then you start working. And that really, is the best book I've ever read. And I think it got me into stuff that we didn't cover at the time, or just didn't know much about. And I was kind of really interested at the time initially in the kind of behavior change and the persuasion side of things, we call it that. And around the time I started working in the pain clinic I'm in now, the University of Cambridge is across the road from where I am. And every medical school has something called what I want to call a clinical communication skills, or a communication skills teaching, or something like that. And it's part of the medical program for teaching. So our students at Cambridge do at least over 60 hours of communication teaching over their 3 teaching years. Got into it, and at first I thought I'd just do all the behavior change stuff and everything else to the rest. But then you start opening your eyes, and I started doing about breaking bad news and shared decision making, and other sessions that are a bit more outside physio. And I thought, as I'm doing this, God, where is this for us? I don't know about you, Jack, but I was told what to say at uni, like the subjective questions: where's your pain, what are your agonies is, I was not taught how you manage someone who's angry or depressed or suicidal, or who's not accepting or resistant, whatever it is. And I thought, wow, this is stuff that is really important for us. But it's kind of one of those things, oh, you'll get it as you start working, you'll get the experience. And I got more and more into it. And now I do my clinical job, and then we'll say on average 1 day a week during the clinical term, I'm there at the clinical school teaching what we call clinical communication skills, which is the fancy way of saying how to talk to patients to our medical students. That's at Cambridge and a bit at UEA as well.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, you're totally right. I mean, I don't remember being taught those things, certainly at university. And as somebody who is more socially inept than the average person, I feel like it did take me a long time to find my way in that kind of environment. Definitely, I've been guilty of lecturing patients before in the past, for sure. When Therapy Live's on in a couple of weeks, you're doing quite a really interesting talk, I think, for me. And the title of it, you've just sent me over, so I've got it in front of me. I Need a Scan, Making Difficult Conversations Easier. But what you're going to talk about is the interesting thing to me, which is almost the mechanics of the conversation.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us just a little bit of a teaser as to what that's going to include? Because I don't know if most people, you've alluded to a few things, but I don't know if most people actually will even go as far as knowing what that's even going to include.
Yeah. So this can sound weird for communications teaching. I'm not going to tell you what to say, okay? Because I'll be using the example in this of the patient coming in demanding the scan. You've probably all been there before. I must have this. You need to know what's going on. How can you know without seeing the scan? We've all been there, and it's difficult. And we have lots of research and papers on what to say after someone's had the scan, right? About age-related findings and using various graphs that have pictures and all this stuff, which is great. But there's not really much to do or say when someone comes in demanding it. You don't really have the stuff for that or the papers. So, and again, I'm not going to say what to say because there are 1,000,001 reasons why we do or don't scan people. And obviously people watching have their different specialities and their different type of people that they see. But the principles of what I'll be discussing will carry you through most difficult conversations. So although we're using the example of the person demanding the scan, it can be applied to breaking bad news about a diagnosis, or a prognosis about telling someone it's going to be a long-term condition, or telling someone, we've discussed this with the surgical team, they don't think it's going to be suitable for surgery. That's, from our side, good news. From their side, if you've got someone who's holding out hope for this thing, that's bad news for them, right? And so I'll be discussing how. We can give a little teaser. So the 3 sections will be timing, tone, and speed. So when you say, how you say, and the speed of saying. Oh, yeah. I'll pick one and stick it in now as a teaser. Let's go with one of the sections of the tone. You've heard of, for voice, have you heard about the term inflection?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What do you know?
The up and down of
Up and down.
Yeah. So that would be how I would describe it, but maybe the emphasis you put on certain words or syllables.
Yeah. So you're right. You can go inflect down. And down is when you do this, right? You come to the end of it. It's like a full stop. You're saying your words, but the going down is basically saying, this is the situation, we're moving on. You're not wanting a response, so to speak, or a small response. Now, the other side is going up. So going up like this. And people, when they hear that, they'll go, and they want to fill the gap.
Yeah.
And that's great for when you want to get people involved. You want to get patients to open up and tell us their stories, etc. So you might say, what's been going on? Tell me your story, etc. And people are more likely to go with it. But you go down if you want to make a point. So your diagnosis is this. The situation is this. Both have their uses. Okay. I'm not going to say one's bad and one's wrong. One's because they can be used suitably for whatever you're trying to do. But as I say, generally, if you want to make a firm point, then you go down. And if you want to get someone to say repeat or say more back, you go up. And then there's more we'll say during the day, but there's a tease for you. It's one thing people can try now. It doesn't have to, and a lot of this, I'm going to be honest, you can apply not just with the patients, but obviously staff, and also anywhere else in life you talk to people, which is hopefully a lot of the time. And as I say, I'm not going to be saying what to say, because we've all got our patter and all our spiel and different things we say, but these principles of the how, which we'll be going through, should carry you through and any difficult conversation you have.
Brilliant. And does that, particularly with inflection, as you just mentioned, does that carry over to sometimes you'll see, it's usually done with an image, but this sort of assumption that healthcare professionals will be a bit, trying to think of the word, but a little bit didactic to patients, and they talk down to them. So you often see that, the therapist or the doctor sitting higher than the patient or behind a desk. Yeah. And does that whole thing play into, so if you, like you said, if you inflect down and end the point, you're sort of, this is my opinion, and that's the only opinion. Does all that sort of merge in together?
Yeah, I mean, you were saying about positioning, right? So physio cubicles are generally, from all the ones I've been in, naturally set up a bit better because you're side on. So like you're sitting at your computer, whatever it is, and the person is to the side of you, which is a much more kind of productive or way of working and getting them on side of you, no pun intended, than like looking, if you're across, it's a bit more confrontational. The downtone, especially if it's really, for example, with Breaking Bad News, if I was to say we spoke with the spinal surgeons, they've decided that surgery is not indicated in this case. It's very much, this is what they've said. But if I was to go, we spoke with the spinal surgeons, they don't think surgery is involved in this case. How do I sound? A bit more uncertain, confused, so to speak. As I say, they've got their uses. Right? Now, we don't want, as you said, we don't want all the time in that conversation that very much I'm the person, this is what's going on, you have no opinion, da da da. Most of the time, it's not appropriate, but there will be times where it is. And again, that time depends on what you're going to say and the conversations you have. And I can't tell each person, each individual time it's going to be needed. But generally, it's for emphasizing a certain point. And for the other side, we're going up. You want to get them involved. And generally, we as physios want to get responses out of them. Okay. But both have their uses where appropriate.
Absolutely. Okay. And I'm guessing it's going to take quite a bit of practice. It's not something you go, we're talking about behavior change. You're not going to be like, here you go, here's the thing to do, and now tomorrow you'll be great at it. You're going to get it wrong sometimes. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect, right? We've all got various reasons why we are not on point or on our best game for someone in front of us. We may not have as much empathy, or maybe able to listen as well, and there could be various reasons in your life or what's gone on that day that could influence that, and that's fine. Okay, no one is perfect. The people who work with me, we teach the medical students, they're not perfect. Okay, and what's also, I should say, what is good communication for one patient is different for another. They may well prefer someone over someone else, even if they're doing the best right things. It may be how you appear, or just how they are that day, and how that change that might make them more receptive to someone else compared to you. And that's okay, because you can't change everyone's beliefs and behavior. You can try, we can make an effort, of course, but that's don't put the expectation on yourself that you have to be a perfect communicator and change everyone's belief every time, because it's unrealistic.
Brilliant. Well, I certainly can't wait. Really interested in your talk. And I am lucky enough, being that I build the whole thing, that you've sent me a preview copy. So I'm going to be able to do that, have a look at that early. So I'm really excited about doing that. Just before we wrap up, can you just direct people to find more about you, social media, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Easy. It's my name, Ben Whybrow, physio. Type it into Twitter or Instagram and you will find me. I think it's B Whybrow Physio. And you'll see a picture in grey and black and white. It's me looking up to the side, smiling. That would be me.
Brilliant. Is that you inflecting up in image form?
I guess so. We're just trying to promote it. Yes, an inviting picture, isn't it?
Brilliant. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you this evening, Ben. I can't wait for Therapy Live. 24th of June. Ben's one of our 45 speakers, give or take. I can't remember what's on my head, so it's going to be really good. I'm really excited about that. Really, really delighted to have you on the agenda there, Ben.
Thank you, my friend. I'm very excited for it.
Do you know your tendinitis from your spondylitis? Below par with PMR? Know nought about gout? Rheumatology.physio is teeming with content to engage with. Downloads, books, courses and more to address any gaps in your knowledge. Head to rheumatology.physio, your one-stop shop for rheumatology information.